Hello and welcome to this episode of Kennedy Saves the World. I'm very happy to tell you that so far, my home has been spared from the urban wildfire in Pacific Palisades. My neighbors and I are breathing a sigh of relief because the houses on our side of the street, on our little block, have been spared. And it is truly a miracle. And we thank God because um, all of my friends there have lost homes. Everyone that I've contacted and called, save one person, and they live in different parts of the Palisades, they've all lost everything. And as we got the evacuation order on Tuesday afternoon, my friend who lives in the house full time, and then, my girls and I go back and forth. We love it. It's our family home where we have lived for 23 years, and everything that we have of any sentimental value is in that house. And you should think about this now. And God forbid you are in this situation, but you should absolutely have a box of things that you would take with you if you had to evacuate quickly. And it doesn't matter where you live. If you're in Florida or Southern California, the Pacific Northwest, there's something that can happen beyond your control, some act of God that might force you from your home. And it made me realize like how important it is to be prepared, at least on that level. And I had a go box. I still don't quite remember what I put in there. I think I put a plaque in German that I got from my grandmother. I'm not sure why it's cast iron. Like, I think it would have survived. And I put some things from the girls and my college degree. And I had Andrew put some icons in there and a painting. And that was it because we have been evacuated before. It is a fact of life when you live in certain parts of the country that there will be things beyond your control that threaten your home and you have to leave. But we've always come back. That's why we moved to the Palisades because it's safe. It's the kind of place where kids can ride their bikes in the neighborhood still, where parents look out for each other's kids. And, the community has always looked out for each other. And I found that through this now more than ever. But I assumed we would come back. Then, as I saw the fire just ravaging the Palisades, and within 90 minutes, it had doubled in size when I was watching late Tuesday afternoon, I realized, our home, our area, our bluff was threatened, as was the entire Pacific Palisades, which has always been pretty safe from wildfires and floods and earthquakes and everything else. We're on a bedrock bluff. We're basically on a slate, a plain that has, up until this point, been impervious. And, Tuesday night, my girls and I, we made chocolate chip cookies because we were all so incredibly worried. And of course, I was gutted because I was walking through the house, and this is what everyone I know who has lost their home is going through. And it is such a painful thing. It's so easy for people to say, well, don't worry about that. That's just stuff. At least you made it out safely, which is absolutely true. And there's no doubt about that. But still, the memories that you hold that are irreplaceable, it was causing me so much fear and anxiety and guilt. And Jonathan Hunt, who was reporting from Pacific Palisades, I had told Emily Campagno, who was one of my best friends here, that I was just so mad at myself that I didn't pack more, that there were things in the house that I couldn't replace, including my grandmother's cross that she gave me before she died, my grandfather's sword from World War I, that I couldn't believe I inherited. And, baby pictures from the girls where there is no digital copy and there's no way to replace them. So Emily found Jonathan Hunt's number. I contacted him and his producer. At first, I just wanted them to get eyeballs on our house because none of the neighbors were getting any news. No one could get in or out. We had no way of knowing if our houses were still standing. We only knew about our neighbors a block or 2 blocks away who had lost their home. So that's how close the fire was. So Jonathan Hunt was able to go in with his producer, Nikki, and I gave him a list of a few things. I told him exactly what to get, and he and his producer went in surgically, and in under 2 minutes, they got everything. They took pictures. They got baby pictures of my daughters, their 2 preschool art projects, my grandmother's cross, and my grandfather's sword. And I was really at peace with that And, even though every other thing marking any milestone in our lives is in that house, and that's the kind of stuff that you worry about and that keeps you awake. And as I checked in with my friends, my best friends, I found out that their homes had perished as well. So, Kathy, who was a heart surgeon, she was one of the first people to evacuate because she had seen this before. She had been through evacuations in the Palisades, and she also had seen what had happened in Lahaina in Maui and how people died on the road from smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide poisoning. They weren't necessarily burned by the flames. So she and her son loaded up 2 cars with as much as they possibly could. She was hoping beyond hope that her home would make it, and it did not. And so talking to her was one of the most painful things because she was living the reality that I was fearing, that I did not take the right things. And even though, she took as much as she could, she's still just beating herself up about the things in the house that she can never get back. And the feeling that everything you love, everything that is important to you is gone. And it really makes you realize what is important in this life. And obviously, your friends, your family, your children, those are the most important things in ascending order.
Don't go anywhere. More Kennedy Saves the World right after this.
It's still so incredibly painful watching people lose things when insurance companies have been dropping them, when there weren't tanker trucks in the Palisades, there weren't fire trucks in our neighborhood or the ones next door because there was no water, there was no support, there was no mayor. She was in Ghana at a wedding, and the thing that struck me was Rick Caruso, who ran against Karen Bass in 2022 for mayor, and he almost won. And everyone that I spoke to in my neighborhood, I can't speak for everyone, just the people that I spoke to, they voted for Rick Caruso because they wanted someone to take charge of a city in decline. Karen Bass is obviously not that person. She's an unserious person. She's an incompetent person. I really believe that she should resign now without delay and let someone else run the city because there is so much damage. She will never recover from this. She should never recover from this. This is her legacy, and she does not deserve another day leading people who have been so deeply wounded by her incompetence. But she knew before she left for Ghana that this massive wind event in extremely dry conditions was coming, and all it would take is a single spark. We don't know if that's an arsonist. We don't know if that's landscaping equipment. We don't know if it's someone tossing a cigarette out of a moving car window. We don't know. We don't know that yet. And to postulate that would be engaging in conspiracy theory, which we don't need to do at this point. What I know is there was foresight. Rick Caruso said, this is something that we could see coming. We predicted a long time ago. He was on the board of Water and Power, and they have known the infrastructure issues that Los Angeles has, in terms of the power lines and the water reservoirs and all the things that have been destroyed that can help fight fires, save lives, save homes, save memories, save everything that anyone has, which can be gone in an instant. And they didn't care about that. That was not part of her priority. That was one of the things that Rick Caruso prioritized, and that's why people wanted a change in leadership and didn't want a career politician running the city of Los Angeles. We've been there. We've seen that. We've lived through it. It's awful. And I think he would have been different, but he said Tuesday night as his daughter's home burned to the ground and he was trying to save the Palisades Village, which is the new outdoor mall that he built that's quite lovely, that apparently he sprinkled fire retardant on, and it is fine, and I wish more people had access to that. But he said, if you can predict it, you can prevent it. This was one of the most predictable, terrifyingly predictable events in all of Los Angeles's existence. So, and I agree with him. If you can predict it, you can prevent it. She didn't care about that. She doesn't care now. She's lying through her teeth when she says that there were tankers filled with water, at the ready. That is not true. There was no water. There was no support. There wasn't leadership. And, shame on the people who are running the city because they have destroyed entire towns. They have destroyed the entire town of Pacific Palisades, which, to its credit, is an incredibly tight knit community of hardworking people. I see in the New York Times and a little bit in the LA Times, and they're like, oh, this wealthy neighborhood. Yeah, there are some parts of the Palisades by the Riviera Golf Club, which are very wealthy, and you've got 10, $20 million homes. There are parts of the Palisades by the high school where I have a home where people have lived for decades. And, they bought their homes at the bottom of the market and they're fighting like crazy to pay off their mortgages. A lot of people inherited homes from their parents or their grandparents, and it's a great place to live. So they live there, they pay the property taxes to send their kids to good public schools, which have all burned to the ground. The village is gone, the schools are gone. But I will tell you, the way people care about one another, that has remained. The way my neighbors were constantly in touch with each other, sneaking in on bicycle in the middle of the night just to get eyeballs on that house. We have that same kind of community here at Fox. Jonathan Hunt, I don't know him that well, but the fact that without hesitation, he went into my home and saved things that, thank God my home is still there. But if it had burned to the ground along with all of my best friends, I would have had something for the rest of my life. And I have him to thank for that. And there are people who are committing selfless acts like that in spite of government. And that is the thing that will rebuild this community. That is the thing that will save Pacific Palisades. And it will take years, unfortunately. I think of my friend Katie has a painting studio in the Palisades where people can go and take painting classes. And it's one of the really sweet features of a town like that. Her son and my daughter went to preschool together, and we still talk. We're still friendly. And there are people who have known her kids and have grown up with them, and their families go and they have taken classes in her painting studio, and that is gone. That is an example of one of the small businesses that has thrived over the years that is no more. It's like the eyewear studio. It wasn't Warby Parker, it was Mark Michelle. And, this is a guy who knew every person who came in, who would make recommendations. And anywhere you went, it was a kind of place where, like the Cheers song said, everybody knew your name. People, even though the buildings are gone, even though the homes are gone, I hope to God that they rebuild their homes and that the businesses are able to rebuild. It is never going to be the same because of people like Karen Bass, but it will be something extraordinary because of the service these families have to each other and to a community, which is a dying breed in Los Angeles. And that's why good people are drawn to places like that to make a good life for themselves and their families, which unfortunately now they will have to rebuild. But I hope and I pray to God that they stay together and they do it together. This has been Kennedy Saves the World. Thank you all so much for your prayers for my family and for my community. I'm Kennedy.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app. Oh, go ahead and leave me a review while you're there. I'd love to hear what you have to say. You've been listening to Kennedy Saves the World on the Fox News Podcast Network.